Hey everybody, Jared Dennison here, your favorite Florida realtor. Today we're going to be talking, of course, about the realities of real estate. Thank you for watching my channel. Today's topic is going to be the Florida Homestead Exemption. So you may be wondering, what is the Florida Homestead Exemption and why is it called the Florida Homestead Exemption? Number one, this is only available in Florida. That's not to say that you can't get exemptions in other states or other tax exempt situations in other states. However, this program is specific to the Sunshine State. The Florida Homestead Exemption is a tax benefit applied directly to you as a buyer of a home or an owner of a home. So if you're watching this and you own a home and have not ever filed for a homestead exemption or don't know what it is, contact me immediately because you are leaving money on the table. If you are watching this and you have not yet purchased a home or you are going to be selling and buying another home, this video is still for you. The homestead exemption is a Florida tax benefit that can save you up to $50,000 on the assessed value of your property. What does that mean? That means that let's say your home was valued at $400,000 of a purchase price. Typically, as a rule of thumb, the government is going to assess the value of that property at about 80% of that number. When you take 80% of 400,000, now I have to come up with the math real quick. $320,000, the government is going to consider that your value as far as what they can assess the taxes based off of. So they're going to take that 80% of purchase price number, again, general rule of thumb, and they're going to say, okay, the value of your property is $320,000 that we can assess you on. Out of that assessment, this is where the homestead exemption applies. Let's assume that at $320,000 assessed value, your taxes would have been $4,000 a year. What's gonna happen on the Florida exemption is instead of assessing you at $320,000, they're gonna be able to make up to 2 deductions for $25,000 each. Let's pause here and go over what those are. The first $25,000 applies to all taxing authorities. So it's gonna be $25,000 off of that 320 number, meaning that now your assessed value is $295,000. The second $25,000 applies to school board taxes and only applies if your total assessed value is more than $50,000. Going back to the math equation we just did, if you went from $320,000, you take the initial $25,000 off, that's $295,000. You take the other $25,000 exemption, your assessed value is now $270,000 on what was initially a $400,000 home. Back to that initial number we talked about where it would have been $4,000 in taxes for the $320,000 amount. This effectively would bring your tax rate down by the difference or the percentage difference in your assessed value, meaning that your taxable value of what would have been $4,000 is now $3,360. Again, that's using basic math of putting the $270 into the $320, understanding that $270 goes into the $320 about 84%, and multiplying that by the $4,000. If you're not a math person, don't worry about it. Just consider the fact that essentially filing a homestead means you save money on taxes. It doesn't stop there. Florida also has what's called the Saving Our Homes cap. That means that once you've filed a homestead as your primary residence, you can actually use that to be able to cap the assessed value of your properties forevermore. So as long as you live there, your property taxes can only ever go up by the Consumer Price Index or 3%, whichever is lower. That is a benefit that carries with you for the property for as long as you maintain your homestead exemption. That's huge. That means that the government can't come in and reassess you at 10 or 15% higher just because they feel like it. Whereas on a property that's non-homesteaded, as long as they can justify and get it passed to raise taxes, your taxes will go up. Keep in mind, this only applies on your primary residence. It's a Florida benefit meant to protect your home as your primary. So this doesn't apply to rentals or to your secondary homes. That said, as long as you filed a homestead, if you buy another property in the state of Florida as your new primary residence, you can actually use what's called portability, and you can port up to $500,000 over to your new property as far as decreasing your assessed value. That's huge. That means that even though you're upgrading your home, your taxes don't have to increase exponentially like they would for any other home buyer. that's homestead exemption in a nutshell. Number one, what you need to understand is it's a benefit for Florida home buyers only. Number two, you need to understand that if you have never filed one and you currently own a primary residence, you need to file immediately. Number three, if you're purchasing a home or you're moving up into a different home in the state of Florida, you want to make sure that you file the homestead or use your portability to buy a new homestead. And number four, you need to understand that if you're not filing a homestead or utilizing this benefit, you are risking the future of your taxes going up instead of keeping it filed and protecting yourself from future tax increases. Either way, I hope you learned something today. I really hope that you gained a lot of perspective, not only on the homestead exemption program, but the purpose behind it and how it helps all of us as Florida homeowners. If you want to learn more, feel free to contact me or my team today. We look forward to working with you.